Chapter 29. A memorial service for my parents is held in a neighborhood community center on the second Saturday after the accident. Dell drives me there, and Mai and Patty come too. Kwang Ha has other plans, and I watch him head down the alley with what looked like bolt cutters in his backpack. Lenore meets us at the community center, and I see the nurse from Jameson who helped me when I hit my head. I can't look at them. I can't look at anyone. As we walk to the front doors, Mai takes my hand. It feels warm. It is colder than normal, and a sea of mostly unfamiliar faces pressed too close, saying some version of how sorry they are. I'm not sure that I can breathe. The air is sticking at the top and at the bottom of my lungs. They put me in the front row. Workers from my dad's union organized this event, and 3 people are speakers. I do not hear a single word that they say. On an easel next to the podium is a poster-sized picture of my mom and dad taken back when my dad had hair and when my mom was skinny. They have their arms around each other and they are laughing. I know this picture. It sits at an angle on my mom's bureau frame, made from seashells. I remember when I was younger, asking my mom why they were so happy in the photo, and she said because they knew one day I was coming into their lives. It wasn't logical, but it made sense. After the service, everyone is given white balloons and we are ushered outside. The helium-filled inflatables say Jimmy and Roberta in chunky purple letters. The idea is to release them while some guy in a suit, but also wearing sandals with white socks, sings about love being the answer to everything. I watch in horror. I know for a fact that the latex lumps will end up tangled in electrical wires. They will find their way into rivers and streams, and even travel for miles out into oceans, where they will choke fish and endanger marine mammals. But I cannot find my voice to do anything about these future calamities, because it is someone's idea of inspirational to release the bobbing weapons. Out of the corner of my eye, I see a toddler refusing to let go of his helium prize. His parents finally manage to pry the ribbon from his clenched fist. As the 4-year-old sobs in agony, I know that he is the only one here who understands. A small article with a postage-stamp-size photo of me is in the local paper, and a fund is started for my future education. My father's employer makes a generous contribution. There are other people on the list of donors, but they are only names I've heard in passing, not associated with faces that I would easily recognize. The only person I know is Jairo Hernandez from the Mexicano Taxi Company. I write Jairo a thank you note, and he calls happy polish nails. It's 2.5 weeks after the accident. I use the stationery from here, so he took a guess that they might know where I am. Patty is surprised that a man wants to speak to me. I explain he is an old friend. He is a friend, and a lot older than me, so I'm not lying. Jairo asks how I'm doing, and then he says, I want you to call me if you need a ride somewhere. I say, thank you, I will. It is quiet for a long time, but I know he is still on the phone line. Patty is watching me, so I nod and try to look like I'm listening to more than silence. I finally say, did you enroll in school? He says, I haven't done that yet. He then asks, how is school going for you? I could say, fine, but that feels wrong, so I say, I'm taking a break from that. He says, me too. I add, but I'm going to the library today. Maybe that's some kind of start. I hang up the phone, and later in the afternoon I ask Patty if I can go to the Beale. She says yes. Once inside the building, I go upstairs and find the spot behind the donut chair. I crawl back there, but I don't sleep at first. Instead, I watch the world from this protected place. The library has regulars. A lot of them talk to themselves, but they do it quietly because quiet is enforced here. After a long nap, I go back down to the first floor. The computer room is the most popular space in the building. I'm surprised, but a lot of people who I think might be homeless, from the amount of things they are forced to leave downstairs at the front desk, go online. I can see that they check their Facebook pages. I watch these people click through pictures and view the same kind of videos as the bored-looking teenagers who show up once school is out. I'm not sure why this is reassuring, but it is. I go outside and sit on the steps. I'm not waiting. I'm just being. Time exists only in my mind. For someone grieving, moving forward is the challenge. Because after extreme loss, you want to go back. Maybe that's why I don't calculate anything now. I can only count in the negative space. I'm on a different planet now. I only speak when I absolutely have to. Otherwise, I do my best to be invisible and stay out of the way. No matter how hard they try, other people do not understand because I'm incapable of communication. And that is why the deepest form of pain comes out as silence. Mai, when she's not at school or with her friends, talks to me about her life. I listen, but I don't answer. I spend most of my day with Patty. She's there for me. And just being there is 99% of what matters when your world falls apart. I know for a fact that Kwang Ha hates me, but I'm okay with that. I have brought nothing positive into his life. Now he has to wait longer to use the bathroom, and the hot water in the shower runs out more quickly. I try to do everything last, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. I don't want to cause trouble, so I haven't said anything about being a vegetarian. I just push the chicken or the pork pieces off to the side, and then later transfer them to a napkin, and then at the end of the meal I sneak them into the trash. I know that I'm eating meat bits that escape this tragically simple procedure, but the principle of my decision is intact, even if the reality is compromised. All reality, I decide, is a blender where hopes and dreams are mixed with fear and despair. Only in cartoons and fairy tales and greeting cards do endings have glitter. I somehow make it through the first month. I dress and brush my teeth when they tell me to. And I experience the hollow feeling of complete loss, which is emptiness. Meaning has been drained from my life. I force myself to think of anything but the one thing that I'm actually always thinking about. And that is so exhausting that I sleep more than I ever have. I am a shadow. I no longer dream in color. I don't count by sevens. Because in this new world, I don't count. Chapter 30. It was dark nowadays when Dell got home to the gardens of Glenwood. The only greenery in the apartment complex was the courtyard, and that was in a circular path of red volcanic chips that hurt Dell's feet, even when he wore thick-soled shoes and was just trying to take a shortcut to the always strange-smelling stairwell. The pumice rock minefield was dotted with stubborn weeds armed with sharp thistles, which poked up through the cheap layer of thin black plastic under the brick-colored lava bits. The thorns caught Dell's exposed, fleshy ankles and drew dots of blood. There were no natural glens in all of Bakersfield. It was a flat, dry place made green only by sprinkler systems. Maybe that was why so many apartment complexes around town were named for ferns and wet wooded sanctuaries. It was an expression of the yearning of a moisture-challenged climate. At least, that's what Willow had told him when she first asked where he lived, and he responded, he had to admit with puffy pride, "The Gardens of Glenwood." Now he took the stairs to his second-floor unit, because the elevator, which was required by law, never worked. Dell tried in desperation to add up the events of the long and challenging month. A week after the incident, as he had predicted, his supervisor asked to see his file on Willow Chance. Dell may have found the missing kid on the day she left Mercy Hospital, but he wasn't a hero for very long. Now, weeks later, he was afraid. He could admit that, at least to himself. He had given Willow practice exams in everything from the required 3-hour test for application to medical school to 14 of the SAT Subject 2s. And she had aced them all. But he made the decision not to hand those materials over. What he sent to his boss was a simple electronic form that revealed next to nothing about the girl. Somehow, he'd been caught up in so many layers of deception. Willow Chance wasn't a cheater. Patty Nugent wasn't an old family friend. The Nugents didn't live in the Gardens of Glenwood. Why couldn't they just use their own address? He didn't homeschool her, like he was supposed to do. And he had never been committed to being any kind of a counselor. Willow walked away from the nail salon to the district offices on Tuesdays. She was always on time. Instead of taking tests or analyzing the stock market, the two now sat in silence. Dell tried to think of things to motivate her, or at the very least, ease her distress, but so far, he had been a failure. Yesterday Willow had come in, and for 45 minutes, which seemed like 55 hours, Dell worked on a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle of bowls of jelly beans. Willow didn't place a single piece, but he knew she wasn't trying. And he was really bad at puzzles, so it was a struggle in all ways. After she had gone, Dell opened his computer and wrote up a report. He knew now that he was being observed. And if there was one thing Del Duke understood, it was that he didn't do well under scrutiny. He had made a mistake by ever getting involved with the genius kid, because it was a lot easier to do his job and not care about anything. And now he cared about everything. Patty Mugen hadn't enrolled in any of the necessary classes for foster parenting, and she didn't go to the one group session that had been offered. She intended to, but somehow, more than 4 weeks had passed, and she had yet to do more than check in with Lenore Cole, who was Willow's social worker. As the darkness of an autumn sky pressed in through the glass of the salon, Patty looked down at her calendar. A hearing had been set in the family court, and a judge would make a determination about Willow in the next 2 months. But Patty decided that today wasn't the time to think about the future. Today was the day to order more shades of red nail polish. She found the new catalog from her most reliable supplier and circled a shade that she thought Willow would approve of. It was called Well Red. Just doing that made Patty feel marginally better. Chapter 31. Vietnamese is spoken here. I can understand the manicurists, even the ones who talk fast. They never whisper back and forth about their customers' nails. They talk about their lives. While they file and buff and paint, I hear their stories, which are nearly all about husbands and children and other family members. Many of them are related to one another, cousins and sisters, mothers and daughters-in-law. They are a tribe. They don't know that what I hear is hurtful. Because even as they complain about bad men or lazy kids, the pain for me is seeing how they are so connected to one another, and to their families, and to the world. These women wrap themselves in their stories from the minute they walk through the glass door until the second they would leave at the end of the day. They use words to build something that is as real as cloth. And while they complain in lower voices about one another, they are joined by blood and circumstance and shared experience. They are part of something bigger than themselves, even if they don't realize it. But I do. I have seen trees that survive fire. Their bark is burned and their limbs are dead branches, but hidden under that skeleton is a force that sends a single shoot of green out into the world. Maybe if I'm lucky, that will one day happen to me, but right now, I can't see it. Patty is at the front desk. Everything in here is white. The reception area, the manicure chairs, the floor. White equals clean. I'm pretty sure that with the exception of the color red, Patty would be pleased if every other shade in the world disappeared. That's how she sees things. She has schedules and rules and methods, and every day she does her best to impose these on the world, one chipped fingernail repair at a time. My mother used the old expression, there is a place for everything, and everything should be in its place. But she didn't practice it. Patty does. I would say that, with the exception of me sitting in the back of the salon, she is winning the battle. Patty is adding up something on a calculator when the phone rings. After she says hello, I hear, today? I look over because I'm now an expert in her voice, and while it was even and unemotional, I still heard something different in it. The person on the other end of the phone line is doing all the talking. Patty shoots a look to the back of the salon and our eyes connect. This must be the call where she officially gets rid of me. I hear her say, I work until 6:30. Patty looks out the window. She's struggling now. I want to make this easy for her. I get up from my spot in the back and I fold up the furniture pad. I close my computer and I take off my glasses. I breathe deep. I know that I have been nothing but a problem. I tried to be invisible, but just my presence here has changed the dynamic of the situation. Kwang Ha was mad before, but now he's a volcano when we cross the alley at night to the garage. Mai puts on a good front, but even she seems tired of the whole arrangement. I need this to be easy for Patty. She has been good to me. So I turn to face her, and I do my best to smile. I want this smile to say that I am grateful for what she's done for me. I want it to say that I'm sorry for being broken. I want it to say that I understand her situation. So I'm trying. I really, truly am. But my teeth stick to my lip, and my whole mouth quivers. Patty sees my creepy grin and turns away. I hear her voice shaky now say, "We won't be there until 6:45. Is that too late?" Patty hangs up and right away dials a number. Even her disposition is one of her best qualities, and she's maintaining it, sort of. Maybe that happens when you've been through a lot, or if your edges are worn off like sea glass. Either that, or you shatter. Bakersfield is 130 miles from the Pacific Ocean, but twice I drove to the beach, just outside of Santa Maria, with my parents. There was a short period of time when I was obsessed with the study of the ocean, since it takes up more than 70% of the planet. But on the two times that we went to visit, I was afraid. The unpredictable current in the vast, complex system of wildlife that resides beneath the churning water gave me hives. Literally. I was a body of bumps. So I admire Patty's composure. I knew that my time here wouldn't last long, and today is the proof. I find myself always waiting for the bad news now, so it's almost a relief to get some. I walk to the front counter. I hear Patty saying, "A woman called from Child Services. They're doing a home visitation. Today." Once I'm close, she shoots me a look and then hits a button, and suddenly Del Duke's voice is on speakerphone. "Well, it's pretty obvious you don't live at my place." Patty only shrugs and says, "It's temporary." He says, "Why did we use my address? What's wrong with where you live?" Patty ignores the question. She said, "Let's start by taking a look at your apartment." I hear Del slamming something. His fist into a file cabinet, his head onto his desk. "I can't just leave. I mean, I'd have to take a sick day or..." Patty hits the speakerphone release button and Del's voice is cut off. She then says, "Come get us. We'll be here waiting." She puts the receiver back into the cradle and returns to her work. She says again, to no one in the particular, "Temporary." Chapter 32. It isn't long before Del's Ford swerves into the parking lot. He gets out of his car as if his hair is on fire. I should be freaking out like Del, but I find myself mimicking Patty's attitude. My edges are gone. I'm sea glass. If you look hard, you can see right through me. There isn't much discussion. Patty and I get in Del's car and we drive across town. 10 minutes later, we arrive at 257 Heptad Lane. I look up at the apartment house. It appears to be a building constructed by a blind contractor who didn't use an architect. The proportions of the place are all off, and not in a provocative way. It looks like someone took an enormous box, painted it the color of Serratia marcescens, which is a rod-shaped pink bacterium that grows in showers, and cut holes in the sides. I'm somehow not surprised that Del Duke lives here. We follow the counselor up a dark stairwell to the second floor, where he opens a door. He's mumbling now. "I wasn't expecting company. I'm not prepared for visitors. I need to put a few things away." He then quickly shoots like a trained hamster through a crazy maze of stuff. We hear a door shut in an unseen hallway. I wonder what he needs to hide, because there is enough here in his living room that should mortify him. Del Duke is obviously one of those people who have issues throwing things away. Maybe he doesn't have full-blown disposophobia, which is hoarding, but he's on the same playing field. The old me would have taken a lot of pleasure in a first-hand look at such a complex emotional condition, but not now. Patty and I stand in the entry and stare at the stacks of newspapers, magazines, and mail surrounding the discount lawn furniture, which I decide is the exact color of a white rabbit's eyes. Pink with a drop of yellow mixed in. The complete patio set, called Masculine Salmon, on a manufacturer's tag sticking out from one of the cheap metal chairs, has cut distinct circles in the wall-to-wall carpeting. I step deeper into the room so that Patty can close the door, and I find myself next to an outdoor umbrella still encased in cloudy plastic. It is propped against the wall. I feel its sadness. I trail behind Patty down a narrow path to the kitchen. Towers of sloppily rinsed microwave trays are on most of the counters. Off to the side, I see teetering columns of red disposable cups. I realized that I have not had great exposure to other people's ways of living. I had never seen the garage setup that the Newkins have going, and looking at this place, I understand that there are clearly whole lifestyles that have been kept from me. Del Duke is charting a different course. If this is what he has in the open, I'm now curious to look in one of his closets. Patty must have had the same thought, because she moves out of the kitchen through the clutter of the living room back to the tight hallway. I follow, but with some caution. This looks like the kind of place where an unexpected exotic animal might appear. The illegal kind that people buy on a whim in the back rooms of pet stores, but then later set free in an alley because they can't control the razor-sharp claws or the eating demands. The door to the first bedroom is closed, but that doesn't stop Patty from turning the knob and opening it. We both now see Del stuffing an oily-looking sleeping bag into a nylon sack. But there are no dead bodies or anything, at least not in plain sight. It's just a super messy room. Comic books and magazines are strewn next to the bed, which doesn't have sheets or a mattress pad. The necks of empty wine bottles poke out of a metal garbage can, the sort that should be outside, in the corner. It only takes an instant for Patty to find the handle on the closet door. Del shouts, "No!" But it's too late. Patty has opened the louvered door to reveal a wall of underwear. There are hundreds of them. I used to enjoy estimating quantities, but not anymore. I know with certainty that in the past this would have really interested me. Patty steps back as Del sputters, "I'm behind on the laundry." This is truly an understatement. Patty looks from Del to the underwear and then to me. It seems obvious that there is no way that it ever could appear that Patty and her kids live in this apartment. But I'm wrong. I'm not sure what flipped her switch, but maybe it's the size of the challenge. We are back in Del's dusty Ford, now heading under Patty's direction, to the Salvation Army on Ming Street. Minutes later, we stand at the front counter of the secondhand store. Patty has picked out a red fuchsia table with 4 nondescript dining chairs, a stuffed lemon-colored sofa, and a leather lounger that swivels in a complete circle. She has the tags for a metal frame bunk bed with mattresses that appear to at one time have belonged to a military enthusiast. Worn SEMPERFI stickers cover most of the railings. It isn't until Del's credit card is out that he has the courage to ask, "How are we going to get all this stuff back to my place?" Patty, without explanation, heads straight out the glass door to the sidewalk, leaving Del to complete the transaction. Del and I find her standing outside at the curb next to a truck that says, "We haul." The 2 men who get out to help us are named Esteban and Louis. They have well-developed packing skills. It doesn't take them long until they have all the furniture tied down into the back of the very worn-looking pickup. Upon arrival at the Gardens of Glenwood, the 2 men carry everything up the flight of stairs to Del's apartment without even breaking a sweat. Patty supervises. Del stays out of the way. I'm the silent observer. Now all we have to do is get rid of his junk. Patty thrusts a detailed list into Del's hands and orders him to the market. Once he is gone, she positions me with Louis and Esteban in a line where we form a human chain. There are only 4 of us, but using this ancient means of transport, months of trash leaves the building. Del returns 2 hours later, and most of his stuff is now in the building dumpsters. He says it was his plan to take it to the recycling center, but I know that he's lying. He doesn't seem upset that we got rid of his things, so I guess he's not a hoarder. He just has trouble with follow-through.